Knows what's going on, lady. No one has any clue. Okay, don't ask me shit like that.
Negotiations, because we've got a whole box of things we've got to overcome: tariff, non-tariff trade barriers, currency manipulation, and subsidization of labor and facilities. So there's a big menu there.
There's been
the funny thing is you would actually think they'd be anti-Milei's decision to devalue their own currency, because that does make them a more attractive target for like foreign capital investment and manufacturing and like a more export-driven economy. But nothing means anything and nobody's consistent, so it doesn't really matter.
Focus on Latin America writ large from the Trump administration in the first 100 days. Is Latin America policy also, in a sense, China policy for this administration?
Well, I think that might be a good description, because what we are trying to keep from happening is what has happened on the African continent, where China has signed a number of these kind of rapacious deals marked as aid, where they are really, they've taken mineral rights, they've added huge amounts of debt onto.
Remember when, how nefarious of them. Hey, Siri, bring up the time that Trump said that the United States would secure a peace treaty with Russia in exchange for $500 billion of rare earth minerals in Ukraine. You know, that time that we secured resource rights in Ukraine, or attempted to, and disguised it as aid. Sorry, China's just better than us at this because they're less racist. Like, the average Chinese citizen is probably more racist than the average American. China as a state is too concerned with like longevity to allow racism to affect their decision making. Look at how much the Trump administration tore up our soft power all across the world. For like pennies on the dollar, we were propping up like Western influence in the entire continent of Africa practically through US aid. We just tore it all up for literally no reason other than because we were helping black people.
To these countries' balance sheets. It's undisclosed to any of the other international organizations. They've got tolling arrangements. So they're guaranteeing that future generations are going to be the poor and without resources. And we don't want that to happen any more than it already has in Latin America.
China has a foreign exchange swap with Argentina. Would you consider a credit line directly from the United States?
That's not under consideration in terms of, so they have an $18 billion credit swap in RMB. Argentina, under the previous Peronist government, drew down $5 billion, and that will remain outstanding. The Chinese showed very good faith effort after the announcement, or in conjunction with the IMF announcement, so that is going to be rolled forward for a year.
But do you want them to get rid of that swap with Beijing?
Well, I think as this administration continues their stay the course on their economic policies, they should eventually have
What the fuck is Peronism? Nobody knows.
Enough foreign exchange inflows to be able to pay that off.
So less than 2 weeks ago, you and I were talking.
Yeah, it's crazy because I'm reading on another monitor. I'm reading over the details of this loan, which are removing, to quote PBS.org, quote, a tangle of regulations that help to stabilize the peso at an official rate and prevent capital flight from Argentina. Clamp down on companies' access to dollars, discouraging foreign investment that Milei needs to achieve his goal of transforming heavily regulated Argentina into a free economy. In other words, Milei is doing the exact thing to Argentina that Trump bitches about China doing. Artificially deflating currency, structuring an export-driven economy that's meant to attract US dollars and investment, opening yourself up to foreign investment as a effort to incentivize U.S. jobs coming in. Milei is doing everything that Milei is doing is the shit that the Trump administration bitches about other countries doing.
Talking outside of the White House after what the president called Liberation Day, and you said you weren't part of the negotiations. Now you're leading them. What's changed in these past 12 days?
No. What I said was I didn't construct the actual
Tariff rates.
The tariff rates. I've always been part of the tariff policy. I had been focusing on tax. Maybe you want to talk about that later. That's going very well. And now with the trade negotiations, I'm going to be part of that. And the president has hit a 90-day pause button, and we are moving quickly with many of our most important trading partners. So we had Vietnam in last week. We have Japanese in on Wednesday, South Korea next week. So it's going to move fast. And but the important thing.
I'm sorry, 1 second. I didn't realize how many times they had done this. Yet, for all of the changes in financial pain, there have been scant signs of a sustainable recovery in Argentina. Analysts say that a long-term economic revival involves the removal of capital controls, the amassing of currency reserves, and access to international capital markets. As a result, foreign investors have waited on the sidelines, wary of pouring their cash into a country infamous for defaulting on its debt. The South American nation is already the IMF's biggest debtor, owing some $43 billion. This new $20 billion loan represents the 23rd rescue package in the nation's long and tumultuous history. The world's only fourth world nation. Remarkable. Prosperity is ahead for Argentina.
For your viewers to know is we're setting up a process, and we are going to run that process. It's going to be orderly, and at the end of the day, especially for the most important trading partners, the president's going to be involved.
So when it comes to the current negotiations this week, you're also sitting down again with the Spanish negotiating team, the Japanese negotiating team, and also the Spanish economy minister?
Well, the Spanish economics minister was just a prearranged meeting. He and I have never met. So that is not a trade sit-down. The Japanese meeting is a trade negotiation.
The Japanese prime minister recently said he's not going to rush to get a compromise and a negotiation. How quickly do you think you can see these deals come to fruition?
Well, again, I think there will be advantage to our allies, especially in a first mover advantage. Usually the first person who makes the deal gets the best deal. So
who do you think will be first?
It's their choice.
He's got a very funny looking face, doesn't he? He's got like a Gumbo-esque quality to him. I think people say he looks evil. I think he's the least evil looking of the main Trump cohorts, mostly because he just looks kind of like a goofy dad a little bit. I think he's made to look evil contextually. I think phrenology is failing us on this one. He looks like a sack of potatoes. He does a little bit, but like not in the way most people would assume. But he's hired to calm down Wall Street. Well, it's working, at least for now. He looks like somebody drew Jeb Bush from memory. Stephen Colbert, if he believed his shit. I see it. I see it.
Is there a handful of countries that you expect to have a deal before the 90 days is up?
Oh, I think there could be numerous countries. And look, it may not be the actual trade document, but we will have an agreement in principle and be able to move forward from there.
So are we talking about a dozen or 70 plus?
Look, I think it's going to...
By the way, so it just, I guess, like the condition previous statements I've made about the unviability of tariffs, Argentina is a country that I would argue is like a perfect candidate for very aggressive protectionism. Argentina has a lot of valuable resources domestically. It does seem like the best thing they could do to stabilize would be, and the Peronists have tried this in the past, so it's not like this is a done and done deal or whatever. It's not an easy solution, but this would be a great example, a best case scenario, I think, for doing like a Southeast Asian Tigers kind of deal, you know, Singapore, South Korea, whatever, protectionist policy, develop local industry. 76% of Argentina's GDP is debt. Yeah, that does suck. That is pretty bad. They've tried, didn't work. Love hasn't worked out either yet, has it? But what are you going to do? Stop trying to build love?
Depend, but we're going to move with all deliberate speed. And again, it's going to be a process. It's going to be USTR, who just has mountains of data that they've been collecting over the years. Because in a funny way, the tariffs are the easiest part. So a country with high tariffs, you can just say, okay, this, get rid of it. It's the non-tariff trade barriers that are more insidious, more difficult to spot, and it's probably going to take a little longer to exercise those
91.5%.
demons.
When you said
of
you
the
weren't
GDP
part of the
stat.
rates in that chart that the president held in the Rose Garden, is he taking a maximalist approach? Neil Dudder recently wrote that President Donald Trump has cracked a lot of eggs, and now Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, needs to make an omelet. Is that how you view this situation right now?